I heard about Mr. Qua's speech in the city. My fear is that Crossbell's independence will inevitably bring chaos to all of Zemuria. Adios, please guide your lost lambs. The grown-ups keep talking about this one same thing. What even is an independence anyway? You're the nerd here, Hamill. Tell me what it means. How should I know? I don't know what this whole independence deal is either. The grown-ups in the city can't stop talking about it, though, so it must be important. If Hamill doesn't know what the Independi dance is, how am I supposed to know? The most important thing to me is the future of Crossbell's children. Will state independence protect them or put them at risk instead? I just don't know anymore. Okay, so I was panicking she was going out to the graveyard, but she just goes in a very big circle. The independent state of Crossbell, I never thought I'd see the day. However, as a man of the cloth, I cannot condone the IBC freezing international assets so brazenly. Septine Church will undoubtedly be keeping a close eye on how things develop. Railway service being halted makes business a lot more troublesome for us traders. I won't raise a stink about it, though. Surely that's just the goddess' way of testing us. We'll manage one way or another. It'll take more than this to shake my faith. Is that you, Lloyd? Hi, Auntie. Are you here to pray? You know, Cecile came to visit us at the Triple S building earlier. Did she now? I should drop by to talk to her on my way back then. Came here because I'm worried about what's going to happen to Crossbell. To tell you the truth, we're a little lost ourselves. Still, no matter what shape Crossbell takes in the future, the Triple S's mission isn't going to change. We'll always fight to protect Crossbell. He's absolutely right. Without a doubt. Nail on the head, my man. Just listen to you four. You've all grown so much this year. In fact, just chatting like this has me feeling a little more relieved already. Thank you for that. Crossbell becoming independent will surely have ramifications in all the surrounding countries. Chiefly could force major powers to hands into applying even more pressure on the state. How would our citizens weather the storm if things came to that? So Sister Rios has returned to the holy city of Arteria. The Congregation for the Sacraments must be preparing to make their move on Crossbell. I could very well pretend that the state is on the verge of great turmoil. As Patriarch of Crossbell's parish, there is much about this that I must reflect on. So apparently he knew who she was the entire time. Sister Rios made her departure from Crossbell the other day. I believe she was called back to the holy city of Arteria. Ellie, do you think it's because of her duties as a member of the Gralsritter? I'd imagine so. Though beyond that, I can't hazard a guess as to what that really entails. Lloyd, how's Kia been? We haven't been holding Sunday school as of late, so I'm a little concerned about her. Actually, she's been acting a little strange these past few days. There must be a lot on her mind. You're right, she seemed especially worried when we set out today. Sorry to hear that. She may be uneasy about the current state of affairs in the city. You're her guardian, Lloyd. Please keep looking out for her and be there when she needs you. I will, Sister Marble. Okay. Nielsen's come by to visit Guy's grave today. Seems he's reopened his investigation into Guy's death. Wonder if that means there's been some sort of break in the case. So I don't remember if I mentioned it during Zero, but there is an achievement for solving the mystery. My son's family is so worried about me that they came all the way from Ramifiria to visit. Why would they do that for an old bee like myself instead of staying somewhere safe is anyone's guess? But I can't deny it put a smile on my face. Mr. Nielsen. Ah, is that you, Lloyd? This grave belongs to Lloyd's older brother. You were here to visit him, weren't you? That's right. There was something I wanted to speak with Guy about. You wanted to talk to my brother? Yes, I wish to tell him about the raid, the Declaration of Independence, and President Qua's speech. People across the world are facing a singular direction, irrespective of their own personal emotions. It's for that reason that I'm opting to go against the grain and ponder the darkness of the past instead. Darkness of the past, you mean? Yes. I'm referring to the murder of your older brother, Detective Guy Bannings. I beg your pardon? Guy's death? Where is this coming from? Why now? Are you saying there's never been a more perfect time? What exactly is it that you know, Mr. Nielsen? Lloyd, Special Support Section. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like for us to head elsewhere so we can review that case together. How does that sound? Agree. Alright, if you're willing to, then so are we. Thank you for your cooperation. Just so happens that I have the perfect place in mind. Let's make our way back to the city. Is it the Triple S headquarters? Out of curiosity, Mr. Nielsen, why come to Garant specifically? 3 years ago, Guy and I agreed to meet here for another one of our friendly exchanges of information. It was shortly before that meeting when I learned of his death. That explains it. The secret behind the cult incident, the arrest of Imperial and Republican faction Dai members, the election of a new mayor. The inaugural meeting of the West Sumeria Trade Conference, the raid on Crossbell City, and now the declaration of Crossbell independence. While each of these events may appear isolated on the surface, in truth they are closely intertwined. In other words, they're all pieces of a much larger puzzle. A larger puzzle, really? Yes, were one to unpack the bigger picture behind them, the rest of the pieces would surely fall into place. Doing so should shed new light on the murder of Guy Bannings. That is why I proposed this case review. I understand, however, you'd rather spare yourself the heartache, Lloyd. No, I'm alright. Lloyd, are you certain of that? Don't forget, time ain't exactly on our side today. We should get the show on the road. It's perfectly fine with me. Let us begin, then. First and foremost, we should examine the conditions under which Guy's body was discovered. It was a rainy day 3 years ago at Orcus Tower's construction site. Time of death was estimated to be just past dawn, though the body was not discovered until later that night. As for the cause of death, it was hemorrhagic shock. A bullet from an orbital gun pierced him from behind straight through the heart. Does all that sound correct? Yes, that's right. He was shot in the back. What the hell? Now let's reconstruct the scene of the crime at the time the body was found. To begin, there were signs of a fierce struggle throughout the area. However, the only physical evidence left behind was Guy's body itself. Not only was his favorite pair of tonfas absent from the locus delicti, I don't really know how to pronounce that Latin word, but the CPD badge that he so proudly wore on his chest was missing as well. I have come to understand this badge was recently recovered. Is it true that it was taken by a member of the organized crime syndicate known as Ravache? Yes, we found it in Marconi's office and he later confirmed it. The mafioso in question even confessed to lifting the badge off his body after the cult incident was resolved. I see. However, that was, as you said, after the fact. As far as eyewitnesses go, there were none. At the time, construction work had been suspended and no staff were present at the site. The time of day and environmental factors were also unfavorable. It was the break of dawn in the midst of a blustery thunderstorm. Because of that, there was no reason for anyone to approach the scene, much less witness the actual murder. To make matters worse, Guy never informed anyone of where he was heading prior to the incident. And that is where my trail goes cold. What you just heard is the entirety of what I managed to gather these past 3 years. That is, unless you have anything to add, Lloyd. I don't think so. You covered everything I knew, too. Mr. Nielsen's penchant for gathering information never ceases to amaze. Yes, though in this case it would seem Guy was not just a source to him, but a dear friend as well. That may explain why he has such a vested interest in a cold case like this. Very well, why don't we move on to the case review then? If we're to unravel this mystery, we must first carefully consider our potential culprits. The obvious place to start would be to go over the most likely suspects, namely Ravache and the D therefore G cult. Do you believe that either of them might be the perpetrator, Lloyd? And the truth is, it's neither of them. Couldn't have been either. As far as the Mafia goes, Marconi denied that he and his men were responsible. Of course, his word only means so much as his own, on its own. But Joaquim told us that although he arranged for Ravache to kill my brother, they failed. Garcia Rossi admitted it to him when Marconi tried to take credit. There's also no evidence that any of the subordinates went behind their backs to carry out a hit. Not only that, the guy was also already investigating both the Mafia and Joaquim. His defenses were up. He would have never put himself in a position where either of them could make an attempt on his life. Just can't fathom that being the case. Gotta agree, chances are slim. Everything we've come to learn about the dude says he wasn't just ballsy, he was a damn good detective too. That he was. I can never believe for a second that he died fighting the Mafia or the cult. I feel just the same way myself. The elements of the case would appear to point elsewhere. The theory may have held water prior to the cult incident, but at this point we can safely rule out both Ravache and the cult. So let's move down the list. Could he have been assassinated on behalf of one of the two major powers? By a Dai member from the Imperial Republican faction, say, or one of the government officials they align with, or perhaps a foreign intelligence officer. Do you think it's possible that Guy's killer might fit into any of these categories? No. I think that's pretty unlikely. It's true that there have always been corrupt officials within Crossbell with ties to the two major powers. It's also true that my brother was quick to push against the injustices they committed. Plus, we can say for certain that spies from both countries were making frequent visits to Crossbell around that time. But as much as I believed in my brother, he was in no real position to touch them. They couldn't have viewed him as a serious threat. Unfortunately, you're probably right. As much as I hate to admit it, either nation could apply tremendous pressure on the CPD through the state government if they really wanted to. Especially under the old administration when Guy was alive. It would have been far too easy. Yeah, it just doesn't fit. Why go to all of the effort of luring out and killing one single detective when bureaucratic red tape is effective enough as is? A high-risk, low-reward maneuver like that just wouldn't have been worth it, no matter how much of a thorn in their side he was. Let's just say, and I'm just talking hypotheticals here, that Lloyd's bro was in contact with one of those guys. He still wouldn't walk into an obvious trap. It's the same deal as the Mafia. I concur. Impressively deduced, I have nothing more to say on the subject. With that, let's move on to our final possibilities. Out of a sizable pool of potential suspects, you've eliminated every single one of them so far. Tell me then, who do you suppose could fit the profile of Guy's killer? It was someone he knew. Guy was still wary of them, no doubt, but it had to have been someone he knew well. That's the only answer that fits. Huh? You serious? And what brings you to that conclusion? First of all, Guy never revealed to anyone where he was going beforehand. That leads me to believe that he was confident in his ability to handle the situation alone. The only reason he would feel that way is if he was meeting someone he knew personally. That's true. Whether Guy was asked to go there, whether the meeting was his idea, is impossible to say. But consider where they met, an empty construction site. Clearly whatever they planned to discuss was important. They didn't want anybody to hear what they were talking about. It's possible the conversation went sideways, that it broke down to the point of no return. Maybe that's why the killer took his life. And what conversation would that be? Honestly, I don't have the slightest clue. But whatever it was, it cost him his life, and that means it was grave enough to silence him over. I don't use this word lightly, but it might have been linked to a deep conspiracy of some kind. A conspiracy? When we begin this review, you said unpacking the bigger picture could shed new light on the case. At that moment, I felt like something clicked, way in the back of my mind. Did you know? Can't get past the idea that my brother was closing in on some kind of secret plot. A plot concocted by somebody connected to the D-G cult, the Mafia, the Empire, and the Republic, yet also separate from them. Whoever it was, they couldn't allow Guy to interfere, and chances are that conspiracy is still alive and well to this day. Doesn't that sound like the most logical explanation? Connected, yet also separate. And you say this conspiracy is still ongoing? It's hard to draw any other conclusion. The killer is still at large, after all. Fact alone is enough to tell me that whatever they killed Guy over is still a long ways from settled. Mr. Nielsen? Sorry, was that too far-fetched? No, not at all. I think your reasoning is perfectly sound. Let me ask you this, Lloyd. As we were reviewing this case, did any particular suspect come to mind? One who could, in theory, have called Guy out to the construction site and murdered him 3 years ago. No, unfortunately not. To his credit, Guy was popular. Even if we narrow it down to those he knew personally, that's still a lot of people. There are also two other key details. His back was turned when it happened, and his toffas were removed from the scene afterward. I suspect that both of these facts are vital to figuring out what really happened that day. Then again, if that evidence alone was enough to identify the killer, the First Division would have solved that case 3 years ago. That's a fair assessment. Unfortunately, not every clue has been revealed, and so the culprit cannot yet be identified. However, I do think one thing has made itself very clear. The only person who can uncover those final missing pieces and solve this puzzle is you, Lloyd. Mr. Nielsen? Right, and I intend to do just that. Glad to hear it. It's strange, it suddenly feels as though I made good on my promise to share intel with Guy here 3 years ago. I owe you all my deepest gratitude for indulging me with this review session. Not at all, if anything, we should be the ones thanking you for this. You're too kind. Now, if you'll excuse me, I greatly anticipate hearing about your future exploits, Triple S. I get the sense that Mr. Nielsen was hoping to help us more than the other way around. Might be onto something, Tio. Keeping his promise to my brother may have been his real goal. I'm glad we took the time to speak with him. Can't help but agree. You said it. Now come on, let's get cracking. All this hashing's got me fired up. Next stop, the Don's room in the old Rivage building. It's time to see what information we can drag out of Lecter. Inside scoop, Guy banning's complete. And that is the final step to solving the mystery. So we're not able to do it now, to my knowledge, but enough clues have been dropped that you may be able to guess who the murderer is. And yes, it's someone we've seen quite a bit. And just to give you a little bit more context on this, the spoiler is so big that even in Reverie, they don't reference it. I don't think they reference it at all in even Cold Steel. Like, the character is absent in Reverie just because of this, and they won't tell you why exactly. And it may have raised some red flags for some people that they were saying, hey, I see this guy, but not this guy. What's the deal? That's the deal, I'm afraid. So we're going to cash this out real quick. So, I think 380 is Master Detective, or whatever it's called. We're 81 off. And the good news is we still can go do the extermination, which I'll see you guys in the C sector next. I'm the Hero of Light, thanks for watching, and goodbye.